Welcome to Inspiring Perspectives, a podcast by thinkPARALLAX featuring fresh takes and bold ideas for the real-world sustainability challenges and solutions at some of the world's most respected brands and companies. I'm your host, Derek Sabori, and this is what sustainability sounds like today. All right, well, hey everyone, welcome back to the show. I'm Derek Sabori. I'm here today with Brittany Pettit, Global Outbound Product Manager, ESG Management at ServiceNow. Brittany, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Derek. Great to be here.
I'm glad you're here. And to our listeners, if you're running point on or involved in your company's annual sustainability or ESG report or your impact report, or you're trying to get your company to really start reporting, then this episode is for you. Brittany, I want to start with this because for those who aren't already in the know, I want you to tell us a little bit about ServiceNow. What do you guys do?
So ServiceNow is a big enterprise technology company, which is a really nebulous term. And that's because we do a lot of things. So we're known as a workflow company. A lot of companies will use us for some back office workflows like IT ticketing, right? Really specific. But the world of ServiceNow goes far beyond that. So we help companies to get work done, to transfer data from one team to another, to manage any kind of workflows or processes within their organization that a lot of people need to touch that information or a lot of people need to be involved and really help to reduce that complexity. So think about things like onboarding new employees, all of the steps involved or all of the different paperwork that they need to sign. ServiceNow brings the workflows and the tools in order to expedite and bring visibility into that process. One of the other things that we do, of course, is support customers with managing their risks, as well as their ESG reporting as one of their workflows as well. And that's where I come in with ESG management.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So you're responsible for OPM activity, right? And ESG management, of course. But I want to unpack some of that. So tell me, what is OPM? It sounds like it's Global Outbound Product. For those of us not in this space, what are we talking about here? Is that just what you just described?
Yeah, you nailed it. So OPM stands for Outbound Product Management. So everybody's pretty familiar with the concept of a product manager, or at least in technology. That's the person who is kind of designing what your technology does, where you need to click, what the functionality does. At ServiceNow, we have both inbound product managers and outbound product managers. Inbound product managers are the folks that are sitting there writing stories and descriptions about what your product should look like. Outbound product management, what I do, relates that information downstream to our customers. We help sales to understand what did inbound build and why. We help marketing decide what did inbound build and why, and how do you bring that information to our customers.
So just kind of looking back through your resume, you've got an MBA, you were working as a consultant. So I am really interested, though, how you got into sustainability and ESG management specifically. What was it that drew you to this part of the business?
Yeah, so my background is in technology, like you mentioned. I spent about 10 years in HR technology. I started at Oracle, and I didn't intend to get into HR at that point. I was sort of just recruited and selected to go into that line of work. But while I was there, I was really curious about things like corporate sustainability, trying to understand how the world works from a financial standpoint and what that means for downstream impacts in the world of environmental and social justice and impact. So in terms of the corporate world, we all recognize that companies have a really big impact on the world around us. I was really curious to understand how can I, as somebody who is maybe in the HR space or in the technology space helping my customers' HR departments, how can I help them to run a more positive, impactful environment for their employees and for their workers and other stakeholders? So it kind of dovetailed naturally into the world of ESG and sustainability to the point where when I moved on to Workday, the next company that I was at, which is a really big HRS platform, I really wanted to get into it formally. And so I went and got my MBA specifically in sustainability, ESG, all things environmental, social, and governance.
And I like on your LinkedIn bio, it says you're passionate, like you just explained, you're passionate about leveraging technology to create positive and social environmental change. So you are well positioned to talk to us today about what we're calling sustainability's new age, right? This is a digital age. And when you and I were prepping for this episode, you said that enterprise platforms are taking sustainability to the next level. And that's what I want to talk about today. I know at ServiceNow, your ambition is to become the defining enterprise software company of the 21st century. So now let's go into more terminology. What is an enterprise platform? What are we talking about here?
Yeah. And that is quite the mouthful. We lovingly like to refer to that ambition as DESCO 21C. So if you ever meet someone from ServiceNow, that's the acronym, Defining Enterprise Software Company of the 21st Century. You can shorten that to DESCO 21C anytime you like. We appreciate it. But to answer your question around what is an enterprise platform, so let's break it down even further. So enterprise and platform. Enterprise meaning your organization, your business, typically a business, a corporation. It can be any kind of organization, a nonprofit, an institution, anywhere that there's a collection of people working together toward a common goal, that we consider to be an enterprise. It could even be a governmental body, right? Any collection of people working toward a common objective. And then your platform, that word that is thrown around a lot in the technology space, is really the backbone on which all of that work toward that common objective gets done. The fewer platforms or pieces of technology, generally speaking, the better, because it means that you have more information and more people working from one single system, right? You're doing your accounting, you're running your books, you're managing your ledger in one place, in one piece of technology. You're managing all of your employee data. You're managing your operational, your facilities data. We refer to a platform as a technology that allows you to do many of those things in a single system, as opposed to multiple different systems kind of connected together.
And so when you say that enterprise platforms are taking sustainability to the next level, I think I can infer what you mean by that, but let's dive into that. Why do you say that? Why did that come to your mind? And what's going on over there at ServiceNow that you are helping your clients with, your customers with, or trying to sell other companies into? What's your story here?
Yeah, so in order to answer this question, I'll delve ever so slightly into a tiny history lesson. And my understanding of the subject and interest and passion for this subject is largely informed by how I learned about HR. So set sustainability aside for just a second and think about your local human resources department, your friends in HR, right? HR as we know it today didn't always look like HR. HR in the 1950s was really more oriented around personnel management, right? You were managing employee records and maybe payroll to make sure that you're using computing power to make sure that everybody's paycheck comes out to be correct. But HR wasn't this strategic, kind of sprawling collection of people. It was really tactical, right? And what happened over time is that HR actually took a leaf out of the world of accounting and finance, to go back even further in history. And accounting and finance started to run their business on technology, and through the use of technology and informed by regulations like generally accepted accounting principles, and then later, more recently, we have SOX, for example. Accounting and finance really became sort of the large and in charge front office aspect of the business because they had a really centralized way to run their business in a really quantitative way and have a lot of visibility into that. So HR took a look at that and maybe a decade or two later started to evaluate whether it was possible to do the exact same thing and started seeing HR, an investment in your people, as a strategic play, an investment into talent, into your workforce, right? So your employees are like something like 70% of your operating costs. And so HR started to make this shift or make this transition to modernize by leveraging technology principles founded in the world of accounting and finance to run a more streamlined business, to have better visibility, to manage costs, to understand your investments, and to really understand your people on a new level with things like talent development and learning, and really helping guide people through their careers in a revolutionary way. So as finance kind of took a very long time to respond to the requirements around regulations and the opportunity to leverage technology as the technology kind of came along to run the business in this way, HR kind of cut that time frame in half, right? They were able to do in a couple of decades what it took finance about 40 years to do. Now, where I see sustainability making a similar leap is learning those lessons and standing on the shoulders of those giants and saying, I understand how a CFO has a very large voice, a very large seat at the table. I understand the power of a CHRO, right? They're largely considered to be a cost center, but they're extremely strategic and extremely influential within the business. Yeah. The question now for sustainability leaders is, how can we make a similar leap? How can we get that same voice at the table? How do we get access to the same power tools that have made finance and HR so influential within the business? And to me, this looks like a nail to my hammer, right? Where technology can now help sustainability to achieve that same leap forward.
Because prior to your pitch or what you're offering now, I'm sure we'll get into some of the details, but what did it look like before? What was that sustainability professional dealing with? Why are they at this turning point where they're like, hey, I've got to learn from others and really take these new steps?
Yeah, you pose that question as if we're still in the past tense, like it's not still going on today.
Yeah.
But sustainability, of course, now is coming to the fore. The term ESG, the amount of search terms that it gets, the amount of visibility, traction within the boardroom, all the rhetoric, all of the debate is possible because sustainability is already reaching a new echelon of influence and impact within the business. It's being taken seriously as a strategic endeavor. It's not purely a cost center. It's not purely a marketing gimmick anymore, right? So a lot of that work is being done. In order to kind of get to this point, to answer your question about what it looked like in the past, it was largely a lot of folks who, like yourself, were interested in making an impact within their organizations in sort of an ad hoc or ragtag effort, right? You had to be really influential and charismatic as a person, able to relate well with other people, help to frame your initiatives in a way that made sense for them, and slowly but surely kind of build up your business case through those relationships and through that positive experience that you have by working with those other teams for them to continue to give you a voice and eventually a little bit of a team and a little bit of a seat, a little bit of a voice. Buoyed, of course, by investors who would also evaluate companies and say, hey, maybe these sustainability folks have a point. Maybe it is better for the business. Maybe the company I'm investing in does make more money if they're running a more sustainable organization. And so that pressure from inside and outward helped those sustainability leaders to really have a seat at the table. However, right, a lot of the work in order to progress that effort is still largely done manually, right? It takes a lot of internal manual effort to evaluate, is this initiative having a positive business impact? It takes a lot of running around to collect data from all of your different internal stakeholders and to make sure that they are updating all of the stats and the data that you need in order to evaluate like their GHG emissions. It takes running next door to HR to understand what are the employee demographics look like. It takes going to finance and legal and compliance to understand what our governance policies look like, all things that you need to evaluate and manage to run a better organization, but largely still a management effort done manually. So now when you think about where we're at today with all of this external pressure to perform better and to report your progress, not just report it, but report it in a standardized, transparent way, now all of a sudden that work to kind of collect that data and build your business case becomes mission critical and also terribly burdensome to do manually. And so that's where sort of the transition to the opportunity to leverage enterprise-grade technology comes in to help upscale and streamline that effort and make it easier for sustainability professionals to do what they do best, and that is drive impact, manage phenomenal award-winning or impact-driving initiatives that help to change the world, with the manual and the tactical stuff kind of delegated out of the way to technology.
That sounds like a pipe dream probably to some in some certain roles. And what's funny, I think you described sort of my career in sustainability. How I became a vice president of global sustainability was just by being a little bit charismatic and pulling on some heartstrings and getting the team on board and really getting people behind me until the company and leadership was like, hey, I think there's something to what Derek's saying, and it's like, it's not just me, here are all the reasons. But you're right. You get to this point then where I went through exactly what you just outlined, which is laid out, which is great, because I would then go over to the finance team. I need your bills. I need your data. I need your help. I would go, form allyship with the facilities manager, with all the retail store managers, whoever I could, to get that information and data. And we slowly would build it. And you're dealing with paper bills and invoices. And you're right. That was a long time ago, but that's still happening today, and it doesn't need to. So tell me a little bit about then what does it look like then for a company who has adopted a successful enterprise platform or who is utilizing your services to the fullest? what does that picture look like? Because I think I only know from on the inside, at least from the old way. So what does it look like today, or what can it look like for those that are in this space?
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, imagine if you could take those burdensome or rote conversations and automate them through a single piece of technology that allows you to communicate with those people, allows you to set those expectations, allows them to quickly give you what you need and then go about their business in the exact same technology and UI and tools that they're already using in their day-to-day business, right? So that picture really looks like connecting the dots across all of these many different stakeholders. From a technology standpoint, sustainability is probably one of the first times that you have the need to centralize a lot of information from a really, really disparate group of stakeholders, right? You think about a business kind of running its operations, pretty much everybody has their own tools and technology and software that they use for stuff. Like marketing has their cool, flashy tools that they use to make and manage campaigns. You've got sales that uses like a CRM tool to manage their customer databases. You have finance, which uses, one, sometimes many different ERPs. You've got HR that runs an HRIS tool. All of these folks actually need to provide data to the sustainability professional, right? So for the first time, you're looking at a need to centralize all of that. One, to manage it, right? To manage your initiatives effectively, and two, to report on it, to consolidate it for your ESG and non-financial data reporting. So
and it needs to be done, sorry to interrupt, but it also needs to be done at a certain time, on a certain schedule, in a coordinated manner, to be done efficiently so it can be published, for the most part, on a certain date at a certain time. So it can be it's tough.
Increasingly true as the regulatory environment continues to evolve and mandates, this is what you must report, this is how you must do it, and by the way, you must be able to assure it. So you have to have it to be auditable. We need to know where that data came from. We need to be able to have a trail that shows who provided that, supporting evidence, et cetera, et cetera. And this is all happening really fast for sustainability, right? Remember, it took finance 40 years to figure out how to do all of that. Sustainability is trying to do it in 5. So it's definitely quite the evolution.
What do you think is happening in this space that feels most disruptive? I know that you guys push a lot, or you're really focused a lot on AI. I know that's a big service that you provide. Is that the most disruptive thing in this space? Is there something else? What do we need to know about? What's on the radar?
AI is absolutely on the radar. So it's so funny. AI is such a hot topic for so many different domains and industries and people, but that's because it's a tool, right? And it's a tool that you can use as a means to any end that you point it toward. AI, I would say also machine learning. There's other really innovative technology like robotic processing automation, which stands for RPA. These are all really innovative technologies that, because we're doing this work now this is 2024, we have the ability to take advantage of these and accelerate the learning curve for sustainability to adopt these technologies. AI is a great one because AI can really help to cut down on the amount of time that it takes to make conclusions. It can summarize, it can point people in the right direction. It can make a lot of people's lives easier within an organization, and it can also be used to achieve sustainable ends if sustainability teams or environmental sustainability teams are using it to help facilitate their work, to make better decisions about how to manage resources, or to better understand the impacts of certain activities on climate change in ways that we simply can't do without really powerful compute technology. So I would say that there are quite a few really active pieces of technology. I don't want that to overshadow sort of the somewhat boring blocking and tackling that simply having a single consolidated data repository, that value to the organization from a sustainability standpoint may not be as flashy as Gen AI writing out your entire sustainability plan for you. But in terms of the value that it's going to provide to your organization, the amount of time that it can save, the efficiency that it brings, the accountability that it brings, simply having a single source of data where you're managing your programs, your initiatives, and collecting all of your KPIs is, I would say, even more powerful in terms of the value that technology can bring than some of these more innovative technologies like AI, machine learning, or even RPA. Those are tools to this end.
So I want to capture that phrase that you said, a single consolidated data repository that's sort of the heart of things right now, right? I mean, that's what you're saying is sort of the most important. So is that sort of step number one? Because we're painting this vision. Let's say somebody's listening here and they've just been promoted, or they got a new job at a company who's like, hey, we're building a sustainability department. You're in charge. We need to put together a report. Great. They're listening, saying, wow, this sounds amazing. So you're telling me there's some software that can get us all on the same page. It's easy. It'll work seamlessly for everybody. I'm sure, though, that it's not as easy as that. Pricing, I would imagine, it can be expensive. Is it cumbersome to implement and install? What type of companies is this best for? Are there tools and solutions available for companies of all sizes, or what are some of the hurdles here?
Every single one of those is an excellent question. And I think it is fascinating to kind of take somebody exactly like you just described. You just described many of our customers brilliantly. Folks who don't have a ton of experience buying software. They can't answer those questions at the drop of a hat. It takes some research. It takes some guidance from somebody who knows how to purchase software in order to be able to answer some of those questions, right? Just, to take a step back and compare those with, say, the HR, the finance world, or the supply chain world. Folks in those domains have literally decades of experience. Some of them, folks that have been around, that have developed their careers, have been buying software and know kind of what they're looking for in terms of what's going to meet their needs, because they have that experience. And sustainability is kind of collectively going through this journey to understand how to buy, how to evaluate technology, how to kind of ask those questions, to know to ask those questions. So to start to answer some of them, yes, there are solutions available for companies of all sizes at all different points in their maturity journey. I would say it's kind of two different work streams. One, if you're a new sustainability professional and you're trying to figure out how to manage your data, first you want to understand, what is the data that I'm going to be responsible for, right? Let's say you have a rough understanding of what's material to you. Maybe you've started to put together some sustainability initiatives. You know that you're going to have to report to a standard set of frameworks, right? You know you're going to want to report to CDP. Maybe you want to make sure that you are TCFD compliant. You're operating in some countries where that's an expectation. Maybe you're subject to CSRD, right? All of the different sort of requirements that drive what the information is that you need to collect, both in terms of external reporting, but as well as internally, what are the things that you're trying to measure, and what gets measured gets managed, right? So really getting an understanding of that landscape and figure out who are all the players and what do I need to know from each of them when, regardless of software. Like that, you're going to have to answer that question no matter what. Even if you do all of this manually through, worksheets, you're still going to have to answer that question. Yeah. So kind of getting an understanding of that data landscape is number one. And then you can start to look at, what technology can I use to help bring those items together? A lot of times you probably have a platform that your organization has invested in that might have a tool as part of their offerings that can help with some of this, right? Ideally, the best thing to do is to use a platform that you already have, that the rest of the organization is already using. There are lots and lots, hundreds of point solutions, we call them, which is a tool that isn't necessarily connected to a larger enterprise platform, right? You're not going to go to a counterpart in operations or sales or marketing or finance and find somebody who is using a tool that's purpose-built for ESG reporting only, right? That's a really limited scope. It's not to say that that's not a great tool to use. It certainly can serve your needs if it's covering all of those requirements that you went through and gathered. But I would also recommend that somebody who's evaluating how to address these needs that they have, look inside first. What kinds of subscriptions, what kinds of enterprise platforms is your organization already using? What's finance already using? What's HR already using? What is IT already using? Because they're going to be the ones who are, they're sending you data, right? They're a data owner. So having a single platform that allows you to grab that data and centralize it, and IT is going to help you stand it up, right? They're going to make sure that it's up and running, that any integrations to other systems that you need are working smoothly. So I would start with evaluating what you already have before going to look at a point solution.
And then once you evaluate, then I would imagine you go out and you find, maybe you find there are multiple platforms that your organization is using, right? So how do you pull all that together? Is that what the enterprise software does? Is it gathers, it needs to know who it's speaking to centralize it all into one place. Is that correct?
Totally. Exactly. Yeah. And your company, if you work for a big company, you probably do have 3 or 4 sort of flagship tools or platforms that you've already invested in as a company that IT has sort of said, anything that we develop, anything new that we buy, try to stick to these vendors just to consolidate the number of systems that you need to centralize. Not always the case, but often. So to then kind of pull together those different items, the more teams that are sort of those data owners that need to provide you information. So if you're collecting information from facilities, or you're collecting information from IT around hardware usage, energy consumption from your IT assets, for example, the more of those folks who are already on your platform that are using the same platform to run their business, the easier it is for you as a sustainability professional to get access to that information, to include that in your own reports. So instead of having to go and bug those folks, say, send me this report every month, send me your bills, send me, et cetera, that data can be made available to you to access for your own reporting purposes in an automated way. That's a little bit about what I mean by kind of cutting down some of that running around up and down the hallway to different offices to collect information. That's certainly not going to capture everything. There are always, right, because sustainability is novel in that it's bringing together many more disparate domains and functions within the organization really than ever before. You're naturally going to have lots of folks who are not all consolidated onto a single enterprise-wide platform to run their business. But the question is, how can I find a platform that a lot of people are already using and have access to that also allows me to either build integrations to those other systems and automatically collect that data, or makes it really easy for those users to input their data manually if they need to. It's got a clean UI. It's something that they're already used to using in the rest of their business, right? Trying to find ways to streamline that data collection as much as possible through the lens of technology will save you a ton of time and headache.
So it sounds like, you've made a whole bunch of sales pitches in here that would be good for somebody to go to their CFO and say, hey, this is why we should take a look at this. There are efficiency gains. It just sort of helps streamline the process. There's traceability in there so that you can go back and verify and audit your the information that you've got. Streamlines the system. Are there a couple others that I'm missing? I'm sure. Sort of, what do you promote as sort of the selling points to get this across the line in the CFO's office? That's
a really, really good question. The ones that you mentioned, definitely effective from a CFO perspective, right? Saving time, saving money, those are always going to be critical. Anywhere that you can point to saving hard dollars in terms of your own operations is key. And from a compliance standpoint, not to mention that the Office of the CFO and internal audit is getting to be increasingly involved in ESG and compliance reporting. So the need to have a strong SOX-like environment from an ESG data standpoint will certainly resonate with them. Yeah. But I would say on top of that, there are a few other points that you can use to make this case. And a really big one that, frankly, I don't think that we talk enough about is the ability to use your system to show value, to show a return on your investment in your sustainability initiatives. And I mean that both in terms of the opportunities, the way that we think about IROs for the opportunities that a sustainable business can drive through new market opportunities, new revenue channels, etc., but also value in terms of the actual impact of your work. Right? It is really powerful when you can say, hey, 2 years ago, board, CFO, you guys okayed this really big project for us, right? We wanted to get to a carbon neutral cloud, let's say, by 2025, right? It's really powerful when you can look back on that. You can articulate where that spend went, and month by month, quarter by quarter, or year over year even, demonstrate your progress toward that goal, really showing the impact of that investment. And in order to do that, you need to be able to measure it, right? So you need to be able to track things like those projects. What was the budget for the project? What was the timeline? Is it being resource efficiency? Are we on track? What are the risks? All of those different elements that are not part of your external ESG disclosures, but they are useful in order to help you build your internal business case for your profession overall, right? For sustainability in general. So being able to show that return on sustainability initiatives in terms of new revenue opportunities, being able to show sustainability reducing risk to the business, right? Being able to demonstrate, hey, thinking about climate-related risk is helping us to protect our operations in this market. Diversifying our third-party suppliers in the realm of ESG and sustainability risk is helping us to make sure that our supply chain is a little bit more stable, make sure that we're less subject to some kind of social event that happens, right? Because we are working with multiple different suppliers and continue our operations. Really thinking about the business from the view of what sustainability can add. So it's those opportunities, it's managing those risks, it's reducing costs to the business just by being more efficient in terms of energy consumption and water usage and all of those other resources that sustainability has been talking about for decades, right? Actually having the data to back that up, put that on a dashboard, drop that into a PowerPoint presentation, right? It's that kind of, that's the power tooling that I mean and the seat at the table that I mean for a sustainability professional to have and to seamlessly deliver that kind of sort of evidence of the impact of the organization that I also think is a major value driver from an investment in ESG software.
Well, again, you make it sound really enticing, right? And as you're speaking, I'm visualizing, and as soon as you said dashboard, that was exactly what was in my mind, because I'm imagining, you're able to gather all that data, turn in reports or send somebody the link to go check it out yourself. You're able to tweak the numbers and see how it's affecting the business. Really powerful. But I wonder, is every platform, is there anything off the shelf that's going to deliver what you're talking about? Or is that sort of, hey, we come in, you always come in, you kind of tweak and customize something to the business needs?
Everything is a little bit different. There are tools that will tell you, we've got this 100% off the shelf, exactly what you need dashboard. I don't necessarily want to take this opportunity to sell and pitch the product that I represent, but that is 100% one of the focus areas of my product, for example. We're all about giving you a quick time to value, delivering things like a dashboard dedicated entirely to a sustainable IT program, or a dashboard dedicated entirely to Scope 3 tracking, right? With all of the metric definitions and the components that you need in order to build out that dashboard. Yep. So there are tools that will do that. But still, that being said, especially in the world of sustainability, everyone is a little bit of a special snowflake, right? You have things that you do differently than your peers simply because of the industry that you're in, or because of the size of the organization, or the way that your business has grown organically. You may require reporting on different things, or you calculate your GHG in a specific Scope 3 category a little bit differently. So you're always going to need to be able to tweak them, which is why it's important to, yes, find something that gives you what you need off the shelf, helps you get up to speed and show that value quickly. But you also want to find something that is configurable so that as your needs change or as you come across something that's a little unique to you, you want to be able to change it and make those adjustments and have it grow with you as your business continues to mature.
Love it. So those are a couple things to look out for. Make sure it's configurable, that it's scalable, that it can grow with you. Are there other pitfalls that we should try to avoid if you're shopping around for a platform or you're preparing your company for it? What have you seen? What are some of the mistakes that companies make?
Yeah, I would say these are two that are sort of related. One is on the point solution front, be really careful and make sure that you're not just purchasing a solution that only stands alone by itself. Make sure that that solution can integrate with lots of other tools, right? Because you're either going to need to get data out of other systems, right? Wouldn't it be nice if you could just automatically pull over your spend from all of your relevant spend categories from your ERP in order to calculate your Scope 3, if that's how you're doing it, instead of having to manually key that in or upload it, right? A point solution that doesn't allow you to integrate very easily will limit your options in terms of how much you can automate. And really, you're not doing yourself much of a favor by just kind of having a tool that sits outside of the rest of your company's technology footprint. So you want something that integrates really nicely. The other sort of related piece to that, I would say, is a little bit, more conceptual or cerebral, which is you want a tool that's going to grow with you and mature with you. As I'm sure everybody who's listening to this has seen, your sustainability team grows really fast. It starts as just maybe you or just as one or two people. And as ESG reporting and compliance needs change and grow and evolve, that team looks very different than it did 3 or 5 years ago. Even one or two people more, if you started as a team of one, is still a 100 or 200% increase, right? So you need to recognize that that growth is going to continue, that ESG and the sustainability space is going to continue to evolve. And so finding and implementing a tool that serves your needs today is a little bit short-sighted. And this is one of those lessons that comes from buying technology, right? The first time you buy a piece of technology, you're really happy if you found something that covers 80% of what you need to solve today's needs. But you're not necessarily thinking about, hey, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, what's my business going to look like? What am I going to need? And is what I'm buying today going to be a good fit for then? And will it help me to get there? Because then, if you're not thinking about that, you're going through the exact same exercise, possibly picking a different tool, migrating all of your data, retraining all of your employees on how to use it. It's a really tiresome, challenging process that can be a big, challenge to overcome and prevent you from focusing on the impact work that you want to do. So do yourself a favor. Think not just in terms of today what you need, but where you're going to be 3 years from now, and find a tool that's going to help you to get there.
That's great advice. We'll try to wrap things up here soon with a bit more of advice, because what you're putting out here is great, and I think it's really helpful. But I do want to ask, in this space, you've been working with it, you're in it, you're working with, I'm sure, a whole bunch of different clients in different industries, and when it comes to this space, then with sustainability, ESG reporting, climate action, transition to net zero, whatever it might be, how do you feel it's all going? Do you feel like, are you excited? It sounds like it because of technology, the tools that are available. Do you feel like we're going to make the progress that we need? Are you pessimistic, optimistic? Where are you at on that meter?
I'm incredibly grateful to have learned from very optimistic mentors as I started my sustainability journey. And so, just to talk about my MBA for a second, I got my MBA from Bard College, which I believe was just re-ranked as Princeton Review's #1 green MBA. So a plug for all of the institutions today.
Yeah.
And in my time at Bard and in my MBA program, I got to stand on the shoulders of some real giants in this space. Folks that have been in sustainability for a long, long time have literally written the book on some of this. And there were many moments where I did come across news, or I felt pessimistic, or there were, losses, failures. And I was really sort of buoyed by the optimism of folks who had been there before and had seen us and had seen sustainability as an industry when it was far smaller and far worse off. And so it gave me the perspective to put that in context and to see that negativity as an opportunity to move forward, to kind of leapfrog, to grow around it, to grow from it. And so that kind of unleashed me into the world of technology with this new sort of interest in sustainability, feeling very optimistic about what technology can now do to help sustainability to overcome even more of those challenges, to really help meet the needs of the challenges and the pushback and the blowback, however it is that you want to frame it. I really see there being a lot of unstoppable momentum in the world of sustainability, and I just happen to see technology as a tool to help us get to the other side of whatever that looks like. So day to day, yes, there are challenges, there are news articles, there are things to overcome, but collectively, long term, there's no going back. I'm incredibly optimistic about what the future looks like for the world of sustainability.
I love it. Speaking about the future, how close are we? How far off are we from the day when our enterprise platform combined with AI can collect all of our data all throughout the year? The stories are in there. You hit the AI button, write my 2027 sustainability report, proof my report. How far, write it according to this framework, whatever it might be. how far off are we from that? That's something I need to take back to thinkPARALLAX and give us a warning for.
Yeah, seriously. When's the day that we all become prompt writers?
Yes.
I think we're a ways off, I'll be honest.
Okay.
AI can do a lot. Can AI make your coffee in the morning? Not just yet.
Not yet.
Maybe for some smart engineers. It will play a big role. There are tremendous opportunities. It will make the day-to-day life of a sustainability team a lot faster and easier. Answer a lot of questions for internal stakeholders as well. Like, hey, I'm trying to sell our product and I need some information on, our GHG emissions or on our B Corp status. AI can help with a lot of that noise reduction. But don't worry, you're still going to have a job for many years yet to come, just empowered with AI.
That's good to know. Well, let's wrap with this, Brittany. I want to know, if you had to kind of boil this all up, package it all up into a few takeaways for the audience. We could try to zero in on about 3 different takeaways. What do you want to tell listeners in terms of whether it's the platform, being a professional in this space, whatever it might be? Give us some takeaways. How do we sum this all up for our listeners?
I guess takeaway number 1 would be get excited about what your enterprise platform, your technology can do for you. Start to see it as an opportunity to up-level and get a little bit more of a seat at the table to get more traction and to be a little bit more strategic in terms of how you run your business as well as interact with your peers. So technology is a really good area to start exploring a little bit. Adjacent to that, point number 2 is I would say look for technology wins based on current investments that you already have within your business. How can you piggyback on what your counterparts are already doing in other teams like IT, like finance, etc.? How can you kind of scale together and win together with them, which should be very familiar territory for a sustainability team.
Yeah.
And I guess third, I would say is kind of take a lesson from history and recognize that this is a really fantastic opportunity to leapfrog very quickly, right? Thinking back to how other domains leverage technology as they were starting to face regulation or as they became a little bit more strategic, start to recognize that, sustainability has the opportunity to do that way, way faster. And technology is just a tool to help us get there. And really leapfrog in terms of the innovation and impact that we can have.
That's great, Brittany. Those are 3 great points, and I just want to say thank you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for all those insights. Really fascinating and really an interesting space. We'll put the links on where to find you and where to learn more about ServiceNow in the show notes. But anything else you want to leave our audience with, or should we wrap it up and check back in next time?
Feel free to reach out anytime. That's all.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Brittany, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Derek.
Hey, thanks for checking out our show today. This show was produced by the team at thinkPARALLAX, a sustainability and communications agency with 2 decades of experience working with companies at every stage of the sustainability journey. We are experts at assessing where a company is today, defining a North Star, and developing a roadmap to get there. If your team needs sustainability guidance or training, or you have a recommendation for a guest or a topic on the show, visit us at thinkparallax.com. We'd love to hear from you.